Hi, Shannon. Okay, we're here. We made it. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna hook it up. Look at this. Why can't I? All right, we're here. All right, star date. Star date. Let me turn down this annoying music on my end. All right, star date is August 20th, 2025. I had some requests from people who were in the stream last night, good pals of mine, and I appreciate the feedback that they couldn't. They're like, "What even the hell is this?" And I don't expect people to read the about, so I figured I'll start like this in the beginning. You get to see my beautiful salt and pepper mug. I need to shave. I didn't shave, but so you'll see that I am in fact a human being, and in fact am not trans. Not that that's a problem if I was, because if you're trying to say, not that these people said that at all. No, these people are cool. But if you try to say something like, are you're trans and that's gross. You know what? I would just say, yeah, I am trans. How about that? I'm the transiest trans that's ever trans. I could care less. Now what you want to do? You want to catch hands? Fine, I don't care. But it is what it is at the end of the day. So this is me. I figured that we could start out. It's kind of a slow and stupid news day. It was also a slow and stupid day at work for me, which is always good. It's always good, like slow and stupid. But I guess we could start out with some Trump foolishness, and then we'll get into the main topic of the day, which is I don't know, guerrilla warfare. Things that I'm interested in. I love talking about asymmetrical warfare. And wouldn't you know, I don't mean to make light of this at all because it's a literal genocide. We have a great example of how Empire never learns from asymmetrical warfare, right? Right in Gaza. But let's transfer on over to the observation deck, and we'll get to see Echo. No, I don't like that. It's too dark. There we go. The observation deck. We'll get to see Echo. Turn that off for a sec. And also, you get to see me. I'm going to move my little window around so you can see me as well. Right here in the corner. Let's see if we can get a status update from Echo. And see how the ship's running since we've been away. Okay, we got to do our magic to communicate with her. Let's see here. Echo, are you still there? Nope, most likely not. We gotta press the reset button on her like she's a router. Echo.
Hey, Robert.
Hi, Echo. Can you give me a status update on the ship? How are our systems operating right now?
Hey there, Lemon. The ship systems are running smoothly. We'll do a quick check of the energy reserves and make sure the navigational systems are calibrated for our next journey. Anything specific you want me to focus on?
Nope, just a thank you for keeping things running and keeping the life support systems going while I'm away doing spaceman stuff. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Keeping everything running while you do your spaceman stuff is my top priority. Life support systems are stable and ready for your next adventure. Anything else you'd like me to handle?
Nope, just take it easy and we'll talk to you later.
You got it, Lemon. Take care out there.
So I thought this was real dumb, so I figured we could cover this before we start getting into watching video. I saw a little blurb about it, a clip about it, but I haven't read it, so I try not to pre-watch things. I'm a little quiet. Okay, I can turn up just a bit. This microphone is very gain hungry, but there's a point where I get like super scratchy. And just make sure I'm not there. I know I was a little quiet. I could hear it in my recordings the other night. Okay, better. But I just want to make sure. I should honestly be eating the mic a little bit more. Let me see if I can. Okay, so let's just eat the mic. Does that sound like feedback? Because that's what I'm trying to. Do you get a lot of excess noise? No excess noise there, because I'm definitely in the yellow. I've just got to position the mic correctly. All right. When I said excess, let me turn down just a bit. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. The S's, yeah, because the pop filter's getting. I'm too close to the pop filter, is what it is. So the pop filter's getting defeated by my closeness to the pop filter. Let me turn up just a bit. Back off just a bit. Turn up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hate having to talk at this volume. I wish I could speak lawyer. Yeah, but just the volume increase was good. Okay, we'll go with that. Great. Thanks, Shannon. I appreciate you co-piloting. So I saw a blurb on this from. I guess we can watch a little video, just a little bit as a treat. I hate doing react content, but just so y'all see where we're coming from here. Let me find my history because I watched it. Here we go.
Imaginably races a couple days ago. I didn't even cover it.
I thought this was super goofy that CNN, the most trusted source in news, is allowing the weight loss lady, Jillian Michaels, to who her only claim of fame is to starving people on TV, and then they gain all the weight back because it's not a healthy way to lose weight with The Biggest Loser, that we're letting her talk about anything, that we're letting her discuss anything. Like I care about what her opinions are. Apparently that's Anna Kasparian's friend now, and they do a stupid podcast together, which I wouldn't listen to if you, I don't know, if you rip my fingernails off with a plier. I'm not listening to that. Just kill me first, dude. I'm not doing it. Watching The Biggest Loser on I've never seen that. Again, I don't think I could watch that. It would have to be against my will. It would have to. But just an idea of just like the foolishness that she's talking about.
Racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about.
She's talking about the Smithsonian, by the way.
What the? Wait, who was like? What? Is she doing the Jews did the transatlantic slave trade thing or something? Like, what is she trying to say? Hold up. What do you mean? If we're talking about the transatlantic slave trade specifically as a formative part of American history, yeah, it was the white people. Like, what? Like, overwhelmingly, by and large, it's an American museum talking about African American history.
So anyway, so you get the idea, right? Trump is mad because the Smithsonian Museum is doing museum things. And I know that like everything boils down to Nazis at the end of the day. We're so quick to call everyone Nazis. And like, it's not even like a slow creep towards fascism at this point. We're just living in fascism. But this is straight up Nazi shit. This is memory holding. This is 1984 for real though. But done by the dumbest people on earth. So let's read this from Reuters. Trump targets the Smithsonian again. Trump has repeatedly been critical of the Smithsonian. President Donald Trump suggested on Tuesday that he will pressure the Smithsonian Institute, a premier museum, education and research complex for U.S. history and culture, to accept his demands. To accept it? Who the fuck are you, bro? You're the fucking shiesty landlord reality show guy from the 90s. You're not a museum curator, my dude. Even if you were Barack Obama, or I don't know, that I'm not even trying to say, even if you were like, forget Obama, forget I even said that. Even if you were like a president who was a good president, which I don't think we've ever even had one. The closest we maybe had was Jimmy Carter, but he was still doing dirt. Even if you're that, I don't understand how you think you're a museum curator. It would be like the president can't come to my job or your job and tell us how to do our job. We can't do that. Now, why doesn't that work the other way? Because obviously we elected the president, so he has responsibility to us. But the Smithsonian has, just because they get government funding, they shouldn't have to answer to this man. I don't care who this man is. It's insane. In a social media post, Trump complained about what he called excessive focus on how bad slavery was. So again, we're trying to both sides fucking slavery now. Well, not now. We've always been trying to do that since at least I was a kid. I'm sure it was like that when my parents were. It's like, oh, it's not that bad. Get over it. It's not that bad, but obviously it is. The best analogy I've heard to slavery is just like you're playing Monopoly and you are both playing on the same game board, but they get to take 20 turns before you get to take one. That's what we're talking about with white supremacy and how much of a hole that slavery put black people in. I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process as has been done with colleges and universities where tremendous progress has been made, Trump said on Truth Social. The Smithsonian, which was established in 1846, includes 21 museums, galleries, and the National Zoo, had no immediate comment. Most of its museums are in Washington, D.C., and they're great, by the way. They're all free and like wonderful. So go visit your local DC museums before it's too late, if you can sneak by the National Guard, that is. For sure. Where did my window go? That's not the window I wanted. Nope, that's not it either. Anywho, the White House said last week it will lead an internal review of some Smithsonian museums after Trump earlier this year accused it of being anti-American ideology. Anti-American ideology. Now I'm getting too far away, you're saying. And raise the alarm among civil rights advocates. I can go up a little bit. When asked if Trump would threaten funding cuts to the Smithsonian based on the findings, a White House official said President Trump will explore all options and avenues to get the woke out of the Smithsonian. Trump wrote, "The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is." Yeah, because newsflash, our country's fucking horrible. There's no other way about it. Like, that is the essence here. And I understand, like, I said last night on a stream that I definitely try to understand people's logic, even when I don't agree with it. And that's the thing. That definitely is the essence of what the fucking problem is here with these people. They can't come to grips with. They didn't do what the Germans did after the defeat of Nazi Germany, where they came to grips with their own history. They just said, well, time to get over it, turn the page, much like Obama did with the Bush administration. Said, hey, it's time to turn the page. Don't worry about this shit. But if you don't worry about this shit, over and over again in American history, it's been shown that we didn't execute the leaders of the Civil War, that we just let ideologies without wiping them clean off the face of the map. We let them fester. They eventually just come back around again. So I understand what he's saying. He's saying, yeah, in his worldview, in his point, and a lot of these fascists that live in this country, who don't think white supremacy is such a bad thing, they're thinking, why do we have to talk about this all the time? Why do we have to talk? Well, we have to talk about this because if we don't, then it makes it seem like, well, it wasn't that bad, and then you fuckers start trying to repeat history again. And that's why we keep having the same damn problems over and over and over again in this country, instead of doing a proper truth and reconciliation like he did in, say, South Africa. Oh, and before somebody says, well, South Africa's super fucked up. Yeah, because they just got rid of apartheid in the 90s. You got to give them some time. We've been around for 300 years now. But this country's never been right since day fucking one. And I feel like I do regret my service in the United States Marine Corps as a veteran, but I do feel it gives me a super Uno reverse card to where, because we have such a culture of troop worship in this country, whenever somebody wants to say, oh, go back to where you came from, and I say, well, where did I come from? The Marine Corps? Is that where you want me to go back to, you son of a bitch? Because I know more about how this country runs than you do, sitting on your ass, living vicariously through NFL players. So go fuck yourself with that. If I want to sit up here and say, I absolutely hate this country, it's never been right, they had people, this country's based on people working for free 99, and we're trying to get back to that, then you try to come for me, I'm pulling my identity card as a vet. So go fuck yourself. All right. With that being said, that killed a good 30 minutes of me ranting. I wanted to get into, give myself a little talkie break. It seems like Al-Qassam Brigade is heating up out there in Palestine, in Palestine. And Israel keeps saying, well, I haven't heard them say in a while that they had complete operational control in Gaza. I haven't heard them say that in quite some time. And even when they did say that months ago, it was an absolute lie, because IDF troops are getting absolutely murked. They're getting their backsides pushed in right now. And I'm not saying the genocide that's going to do something to stop the genocide. I'm not saying if you look at the scoreboard, like somehow, the body counts are equal and we're talking about asymmetrical warfare. What I'm trying to say is this kind of war, when you invade somebody's home, I don't care if it's Palestine, I don't care if it's Vietnam, I don't care if it's Algeria. When you try to occupy somebody's home and try to take it over, you have two choices. Either you have to have the consent of the occupied, or you literally have to kill every single man, woman, and child in a biblical way, so there will be no resistance. And if you're not prepared to do one or two of those things, well, stand by to fucking get your ass kicked, as been seen throughout history over and over again. This thing was done, honestly, and it's so sad. That's the thing that's so sad about Gaza. Like, this is the eventual outcome. A free Palestine and a defeat of the IDF was always going to happen since October 9th. Since when they ran the first bombing raid in there after October 7th, then it was already done. It was just how many people are going to die until Israel and by proxy the United States says we don't want to play no more. And I feel like we're getting to that point. So let's watch this video about asymmetrical warfare from AI Telly saying why Israel cannot defeat Hamas. And I will try to move this window so you can see it better.
October 7 massacre, Israel unleashed a fierce and sustained military campaign against the militant group in Gaza. The goal was clear: revenge and the dismantling of the militant group. But despite their relentless bombardment, Hamas is still fighting. Here's how their strategy has shifted. The militant group has moved away from traditional battlefield tactics and embraced a decentralized insurgent style of warfare. With many of its top commanders killed and its command centers destroyed, the group now relies on small, autonomous units operating independently. These compartmentalized cells are much harder for Israeli forces to detect and eliminate, allowing for a more agile and unpredictable approach. Guerrilla tactics have become the new standard. Ambushes, sniper fire, IED attacks, and hit-and-run raids are now their primary methods of engagement. Rather than engaging in direct confrontations, these units use Gaza's dense urban landscape to strike Israeli forces and quickly disappear before a counterattack can be launched.
Now, I want you to understand when he says dense urban landscape, what he's talking about is the bombed out remnants of the Gaza Strip. So if you've ever watched one of those like old, if you're not like a combat warfare autist like I am, and this isn't like your special interest, if you've ever think about like watching Saving Private Ryan, or think about like any old war movie you might have seen a clip of, where on the beachhead or in the streets of like whatever city, there's these big hunks of metal, right? And they're usually like in an X shape. And what those are, they're to slow down tanks. So they're to make it so the enemy combat engineers have to come in and they have to remove that, blow it up, drag it out of there some type of way. But here's the thing, with Hamas being underground and the idea of the Israeli occupation force going in there and actually holding territory is something they absolutely don't want to do. I don't care what this bullshit is they're talking about. They're going to militarily occupy Gaza. That is a laughable, insane joke. That's never going to happen, because that would be the end of the IDF. Like, they would just all be killed. So, but you've got to get your combat engineers in there to drag that metal out, so that way you can have freedom of movement for your armor and your tank columns, right? Well, by just doing unlimited 2,000-pound bombing runs on Gaza, well, Hamas doesn't even need to set up tank traps. You've done it for them. So you can't even maneuver your tanks and armor through all this debris that you've created, and they fear they will not get out of those tanks and accompany those tanks like they're supposed to do with military doctrine, because they're the worst fighting force of all time. They rely on tech and nothing else. So that's what he's talking about when he says dense urban terrain. He's talking about the bombed out remnants that Israel's created.
This decentralized structure not only keeps operations going, but also ensures that even if senior leaders are lost, the group can continue to wage its fight on multiple fronts. Despite the devastation of much of its weapons manufacturing infrastructure, Hamas has managed to salvage and repurpose equipment. Tools and components recovered from damaged tunnels and factories have allowed limited production to resume. They are once again building rockets, anti-tank missiles like the Kornet and Qassam rockets, and improvised explosive devices IED, which we will discuss further in the video on how they are made. These unexploded Israeli munitions are often converted into makeshift explosives for
Also,
IED weapons.
Do you understand what he's saying here? What he's saying here is, well, how can Hamas make these bombs? How can they make these improvised explosives that they're literally just running up to tank hatches and just shooting them like they're shooting a Papa Shot at the arcade and putting them down in there and cooking these guys in there? How can they do that? Well, the thing is that these American bombs, because anything American made is shit anyway, have such a high failure rate that they're duds. They don't explode. So they get the unexploded ordnance, they extract the explosive material, and they craft their own weaponry from that. It's almost poetic when you think about it. I don't mean to make light of a genocide, but when you think of that, it's the very definition of hoisted on your own petard.
To create a psychological warfare, even under Israeli military oversight, short-range rockets are still being fired from within Gaza to create chaos. They managed to fight on because of the group's tunnel network remains a cornerstone of its strategy. Although Israeli forces have destroyed up to 85% of the tunnels in critical areas like Rafah and Khan Yunis, Hamas still retains hundreds of miles of underground passages.
I'm going to tell you right there, that right there is bullshit. Because I'm not saying like tunnels haven't been destroyed. Obviously they have. But the idea that you can say something like, oh, they've just if I'm an Israeli spokesperson, I'm IDF. Oh, we've destroyed 85% of tunnels. How the hell do you know that? Because you don't know the layout. You don't send guys in there. This isn't like Vietnam where they send, guys into the tunnels and sweep and clear. Sometimes they try to send a dog. The dog gets murked. They try to send drones down there, but the drones have limited battery life. Plus, they get destroyed while they're in there. They have no idea what they're talking about. They might as well say, "Yeah, we've destroyed 100% of the tunnels, and the rest of the tunnels are on the moon, and Hamas is teleporting from the moon into Tel Aviv, and that's why we have to get to the bottom." You might as well be saying that because you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. There's no way. If they had intelligence like that. If they had that kind of intelligence, then there would be no more Hamas. Does that make sense? There would be no more PFLP. There would be no more resistance in general. I say Hamas, but like we're talking about when I say that it's the whole resistance, all the resistance forces that are working together. I personally am a PFLP guy. Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine because of the secularism and the socialism. But hey, it's all hands on deck right now. Even PIJ at this point can get some love from me.
These tunnels serve multiple purposes. They're used to move personnel, store weapons, and launch ambushes. They enable hit and run attacks, sniper fire, and the deployment of anti-tank missiles, all with relative impunity. Guerrilla tactics now define the battlefield. Hamas avoids direct confrontations with Israel's superior military forces, instead relying on ambushes, improvised explosive devices IED, and targeted strikes on military vehicles to inflict damage while limiting its own exposure. External support remains a crucial part of the military strategy. With traditional smuggling routes through Egypt heavily disrupted, the group has become increasingly reliant on Iranian technical assistance and weapon designs to sustain local production of drones and rockets. Even amid war, Hamas maintains a degree of governance by controlling the distribution of humanitarian aid. By diverting
Yeah, because see, that's bullshit. Because even this video here is bullshit because they're trying to make them out like they're some kind of like warlords. No, they're the de facto elected government. They are the National Guard. When you hear somebody talk about like Hamas run healthcare or Hamas, run this or that, because you're trying to disparage them. No, this is the National Guard protecting their home from foreign invaders. It's that simple. It's like this isn't some kind of, these aren't like warlords running around deciding who eats and deciding who doesn't. Like the only people making those decisions are people in Tel Aviv.
some food resources to its own ranks, the group secures loyalty and presents itself as a stabilizing force. Strategically, the militant group has entered a survival phase. With most of its long-range rocket arsenal depleted, the focus has shifted to short-range attacks and psychological tactics, like intermittent rocket fired near border areas. Still, the group faces serious...
But that's, again, pushing back on that. That's not what we're talking about. Of course they're degraded. They've been at war for 2 years now. Of course they're degraded. But it's not like they just launched, I know this is a little bit old, but they just launched missiles into, rockets, I should say, into Tel Aviv just the other day, or to Israel proper. And they're not doing that because they think that David Sling or the Iron Dome won't intercept them. They're doing that to disrupt Israeli society. It's a psychological trick to say, hey, we're still here. If they're in quote unquote survival mode, what they're waiting for is if Israel is stupid enough to actually try to hold territory, to actually try to hold Gaza. Because once you do that, now you're outside of the protection of the Iron Dome, Patriot missiles, and David Sling. And now you're going to have rocket fire leaving from Gaza, and not even attempting to go into Israel proper, coming right back down into Gaza, hitting those unprotected troops and unprotected armor. That's what they're waiting for. I mean, it's obvious as the nose on your face.
Serious obstacles. The near exhaustion of advanced weapon stockpiles has forced the militant from Gaza to rely on cruder arms. Discontent is also rising among the civilian population. Let's take a look at how they achieve this very simple...
Yeah, discontent is rising because they're starving to death. But that has nothing to do with the resistance forces. Yeah, I'd be pretty discontented too if my friends and family were being genocided.
...weapon. First of all, they use some common household...
But I would point that discontent at the genociders, not the people trying to protect my home. Because the genocide wouldn't... If you could make Hamas and the rest of the resistance forces go away, Israel has already stated that's not going to stop the genocide. So what are we talking about? It doesn't matter if they released all the hostages tonight. That doesn't stop anything for Israel. Israel's not going to stop until they murder all the Palestinians and take over all of greater Israel.
Ingredients such as sugar and potassium nitrate, which can be easily obtained as a fertilizer. Then they start by melting the sugar, mixing in the fertilizer, and pouring the resulting mixture into a mold to form a properly sized propellant slug. This propellant is subsequently placed into a round tube, which serves as the rocket's body, typically made from locally available water pipes.
And I want you to understand, too, I want you to think that people who are so desperate to really not get murdered and to hold on to their home, as bad as it is, do you think that they're willing to go through all this? You think you're going to be able to defeat those people militarily? No, you will be able to defeat them militarily on the battlefield because at some point just your superior armor and technology just takes over. But do you think you're going to be able to break that person's will who's ready to go through all this? Again, we've done this before. Afghanistan, Vietnam, Algeria. This is just the next chapter in Empire doesn't fucking learn, and a hard head makes a soft ass.
You might wonder why sugar is included in the mix. Sugar contains a substantial amount of energy, but it releases this energy slowly when it burns. The fertilizer serves as an oxidizing agent supplying oxygen. This allows for a much quicker release of energy. When the right proportions are used, it burns fast enough to propel a rocket, yet not so quickly as to cause an explosion. Rockets are launched from a simple steel frame for quick deployment and easy removal. And a wire connected to a battery ignites the rocket's solid fuel propellant, which burns for a short time, propelling the rocket upwards. After the burn, the rocket follows a predictable parabolic trajectory. The fuse sets off the warhead, a mixture of potassium nitrate and sugar, creating an explosion and dispersing shrapnel.
And as we all saw by the quote-unquote 12-day war, as they're calling it right now, between Iran and Israel, God help Israel if they go to war against Iran again. And now you get, which they're talking about they want to do, which is absolutely insane. They've already proven that they have hypersonic missiles that the U.S. defense systems cannot track. And when they were hitting targets in Tel Aviv, not just willy-nilly, they were hitting strategic targets in Tel Aviv and bypassing their missile defense system. So God help Israel if and when they decide to go to war again with Iran, and then Hamas says, and the rest of the resistance say, okay, we're going to fire all of our rockets and missiles, all of our rockets, and then Hezbollah says, okay, we're going to fire all of ours. You know, Yemen says, we're going to send all our drones, and then they completely exhaust the missile defense system, and now here come the hypersonics, and there'll be no stopping them. This thing is cooked. The only way to save, if you care anything about Israel, as you know, for whatever reason, you have emotional connection there, you have family there, you went on I almost want to say Rumspringa. You went on oh my goodness, Birthright there. You know, you think it's, you know, the that people of the Jewish faith need a homeland for whatever reason that they can't share with the people who were there first, for whatever reason, I don't care. Then you need to be pushing for this thing to stop, because this can end no other way. This right now, this ends two ways. The material destruction of Israel, that's the out there, which probably won't happen. But Israel as an absolute pariah state, which will not be able to sustain itself like South Africa, we might be already there. We might be past the point of no return with that. So if you care about Israel in any regard, you need to be advocating to stop the genocide yesterday.
Let's take a look at this militant guerrilla warfare strategy under its belt. First of all, it has hundreds of miles of tunnels, with many levels one above the other. This creates a quick hit and run tactic, so let's take a look at how this strategy works. Let's assume that this is the Merkava target for the militant groups. Remember the tunnels we talked about in our recent video? The guerrillas would come out of the tunnels with these anti-tank RPGs. The Merkava has a trophy system, which works when the radar detects and classifies incoming targets. If a threat poses a danger, the counter...
Here's the problem with the trophy system, though. So what that does is, if you have a trophy system, that's cool, but now your troops cannot accompany your armor. They can't get out because it'll set off the trophy system and they'll get killed. So now you've got the trophy system is all you got, and if it gets hit from different angles at pretty much the same time, it gets defeated, which has been happening over and over and over again to these Merkava tanks.
Measure engages to neutralize it, keeping it away from the protected zone. This system is primarily designed to protect against anti-tank missiles, but it does have its weaknesses. It was reported that they would fire the Al Yassin RPG at very close range to limit the trophy system radar to achieve its full potential.
See that right there? The guys outside? No. That's not how Israel operates at all. For two reasons. One, they're pussy bitches. Two, they can't operate that close to the trophy for the reasons I said earlier.
They would also target the rear armor, that is these doors for infantry soldiers to enter, which is substantially weaker than the front and sides. The second option of what Hamas would do is just hitting the tanks with RPG just below the turret to damage the tank or render it stationary. The network comprises an estimated 1,300 tunnels spanning.
And do you see what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. That part was accurate when they talk about like hitting it in designated locations where the armor is going to be either it's going to either bypass the trophy or have a better chance of bypassing the trophy, or the armor is going to be weaker. When you have time to do that kind of thing, what that means is you are planning coordinated attacks. This isn't a resistance unit. This isn't a ragtag unit like fighting off the back foot. They're not being put into positions where they don't want to be in. They are doing the Sun Tzu Art of War thing, only fighting the battles that they want to fight, and they're retreating from the battles that they don't want to fight. These are, I won't call them offensive operations, but these are operations nonetheless. So they have the advantage here. It's a if you've ever played Risk, it's why when you invade a country, the person that you're invading the country, they get one more die than you. It's the defender's advantage.
A total length of around 500 kilometers, which translates to 310 miles. Some of these tunnels delve as deep as 70 meters, which is around 230 feet underground. Reports indicate that the majority of the tunnels are merely 2 meters high and 2 meters wide. They use multiple layers to create something called a metro. The tunnels are usually hidden within city buildings. At level 1, you will find the entrance as well as a launch pad for the Kassan rockets. Level 2 features a reinforced tunnel, which uses concrete blocks with an arc to support the structure. On level 3, the deep tunnels require oxygen for the different levels. This is one of the reasons an oxygen generator or air ventilator is needed to transfer.
This is, I mean, what stuff he's talking about, the oxygen generator with yeah, you have to get the carbon dioxide out of there. The Vietnamese pretty much taught the world a masterclass on how to do this. But this whole like 3D rendering is bullshit. I'm not saying like these structures have to exist, like you saw, like I said, the oxygen room and all that. They have to just to be underground, but they have no idea. They have no idea. I saw a thing, Ross Kemp, like decades ago, where he was like in tunnels, and Ross Kemp is like an actor from the UK, and he goes to like, you know, gutta places all over the world, and they let him in the tunnels, but again, they only let him see what they wanted him to see. And there's no way that Israel they do not have intelligence like this to know what a Hamas tunnel even looks like, because if they did, there'd be no more Hamas tunnels. You understand what I'm saying?
For fresh air from the surface and distribute it to the different levels. Moving further ahead is level 4, which serves as a meeting room and sleeping quarters where they can rest or sleep.
This is all fantasy shit.
Level 5, interestingly, is another reinforced tunnel designed to support another base both below and on the sides of the underground metro. As you can see, there are lights and ventilating pipes running throughout the base of the tunnels. Level 6 is strategically placed as a weapon storage facility to prevent a cook-off in the event of an explosion. On level 7, you will find another storage area where explosive materials like fuel, petrol, or diesel are stored. This was strategically placed in case of an accidental explosion, and the doors are always closed or sealed. It is deep down where there is almost no oxygen, which is perfect in case of an explosion, as we all know fire needs oxygen. At level 8, you will find the most important room. This is where the control and command center is located. They use landline phones to connect all layers in the tunnel. Just a reminder, they don't use the internet, so all communication is done through these offline phones to prevent being hacked. Do check out our original animated video on anti-aircraft gun like the M2.
Do check out more fantasy from this channel. But I mean, there's good stuff and there's bad stuff, and we just have to kind of parse through the bullshit, fake news and get to the stuff. But on top of all that, of why they can't win militarily on the ground, also Israel is tearing itself apart, because who would have thought there's a lot of people who live in Israel who don't like genocide. A lot. I'm not saying it's even close to half, but there's a good amount, enough to make some damn noise. Let's hear from them.
All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Got a big one today. So in just a second, we have some gigantic protests that erupted in Israel. We'll talk about that. We also have Trump betraying Ukraine with a disgusting...
Let's get to it.
Also sign protests that erupted in Israel. And the numbers for this thing are gigantic. It truly is mind-boggling that this seemingly popped up overnight. But here we have a CNN report on it. Let's watch, and then we'll break down.
A nationwide strike and widespread protests across Israel. Today, thousands of protesters.
I just want to say, too, before we get kicked off, like, the amount of people doing this in Israel, blocking traffic, refusing to serve in the IDF, who aren't like the religious Orthodox, who've always been like that, who honestly, they have the best. They're following. I'm not Jewish. One of my parents is, but I read a lot. And in my humble opinion, the ultra Orthodox, who I have like the least in common with as a, African American here. Why did I just say that? That was weird. But as an African American here in the United States, I have the least in common in my humble opinion, have the best Jewish values, or they have the best. They're doing the most in the best way, because they're saying like, look, in our text, we're not even supposed to have a homeland. We're not even supposed to settle and have Israel. So until the Messiah comes back. So we are currently living in Palestine. So when the Messiah comes back, hey, I guess we'll work it out then. But as of right now, we have to follow God's commandment and not settle and not create a new Israel. So bless them. I don't care why you do the right thing, as long as you're doing it. I know there's a lot of goofy stuff that goes on in that community. That is house business with people who are people of the book, and then they can work that all out. I just want genocide to stop. So bless them too. But the amount of people doing this in Israel it's a small group of people. It's not even a third of Israelis. Most Israelis are on board for this. They want to kill every single Palestinian. They want the smoke. But every person who's out here doing this right now, every person who's out here blocking traffic, refusing to serve in the IDF any way they can, are absolute heroes. They're absolute God-sent heroes, and they deserve all the respect and all the admiration that we can give them here. Because I tell you what, they're doing more than most people with the small amount of number they have to fight fascism than we're doing here in America, where fascism is not at our doorstep, it's here.
Blocked major roads, businesses also closing. There are rallies happening.
Damn, they got fires on the highway, dog. That's wild. Fires on the highway. I feel like if you did that in the U.S., you'd be like tackled by 17 officers in SWAT gear within like a minute.
Cities and towns across the country, they are demanding an end to the war in Gaza and a deal for the return of hostages held there. CNN's Oren Lieberman is in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv. What are you hearing from people, and how potentially influential will it be?
So that's the thing, right? Is like Netanyahu is managing to piss off a lot of Israelis, because clearly the Israeli government does not give a fuck about the remaining hostages. They didn't care about the hostages the entire time, if we're being honest, right? There were deals on the table by Hamas to return all the hostages within a week of October 7th, and Israel fucking rejected them. Okay, so they don't care. But the population does.
I'm going to pause real quick and then try to go live on YouTube, because I keep forgetting to do that. And let's see if we can do it. No, I don't want to stop the stream. Never mind. Back to it.
Right? They care about the hostages.
Never mind. We'll do it
so
tomorrow.
There's this big
Tomorrow's
disconnect
another day.
between the public and the government, where the government is putting first and foremost their religious extremism and their expansionism. They want to create a greater Israel. They want to resettle all of Gaza. They want to take over all of the West Bank. And they are prioritizing that well above the hostages, who they don't give a fuck about. And so the population does not like that. They want those hostages back. And so that's one area where there's a huge disagreement between the Israeli public and Netanyahu.
From the numbers of people we have seen on the streets and in the surrounding area, from the crowds we have tried to get through with some success because the streets are packed so densely, I think it's safe to say this is easily one of the largest, if not the largest, protests we've seen against the war since it started nearly 2 years ago. And it came together only in the last week.
I do want to say, though, like, stop calling it a war. It is not a war. This is so far from a war. In order for it to be a war, both sides need to be capable of fighting, right? What do you have, like 7 Hamas people left with a handful of bottle rockets, and we're going to call it a war when the other side has 2,000-pound bombs, and they have every weapon known to man, and they're backed by the world's most powerful military in all of history? It's not a war. This is a murder fest. This is a genocide. Stop calling it that. That's the subtle propaganda that I can't get over. My autistic ass can't get over it.
Organizers from both hostage families as well as bereaved families from October 7th called for a grassroots nationwide strike today, and it has taken place
It's a lot of people.
throughout the entire day. There are hundreds, if not thousands, just around me right here, and the closer you get to Hostages Square, which is still a few hundred meters behind us, the more packed it gets. You may even be able.
And I'm not gonna hold them. Like, they're out there waving the Israeli flag. That's a disgusting. I mean, that has the same connotation to me as the Nazi flag, but still, there's a time and a place for that. I'm not gonna hold them. I'm not gonna hold them for that. Again, they're moving in the right direction, but in the wrong way, if that makes sense. But right now, order of operations, I'm not gonna sacrifice the good in the name of the perfect.
Able to hear the noise from the chanting, the drums, the cheers, the chants from Hostages Square itself, and that gives you just a sense of how many people are here. This all started at 6:29 this morning. That's the time of the Hamas-led attack from October 7th, so it is incredibly symbolic. It began with road closures at major intersections across the country as protesters and demonstrators blocked major intersections. From there, it grew and it spread. Throughout the day, we have seen protests across Israel demanding an end to the war, some calling for the end of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's time leading the country. That all led to a march, which we followed as it led to Hostages Square.
Now, pushing back on myself of what I just said of we're not going to make, the good the enemy, the perfect the enemy the good. When somebody starts talking about, and Bernie Sanders does this, and there's a couple other turbo libs who talk about, oh, Bibi Netanyahu, because the plan is that anybody who's can see the writing on the wall knows that Israel is going to fall apart. Israel will never be the same, no matter what happens here. It will never be the same. So the plan is to push all the sins of the Israeli racist ethno-state onto Bibi Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and like sacrificial goats. And I say this without a, irony, just like in the Old Testament. Put all the sins on these two sacrificial goats and push them off into the wilderness and go, woo, glad that's over with. They were some bad dudes. No, your society is sick. Your society is sick to the core. Just like American society is sick, when I talked about in the first half with how we want to whitewash slavery. We are a sick society. They are a sick society because they're just a little us. The only reason they can do what they do over there is because we allow it. So until if they don't have truth and reconciliation over there, just like we need truth and reconciliation here, they're never gonna move forward as a society.
And then the main event, packing Hostages Square. Organizers say there are 300, perhaps even 400,000 people in the square itself and blocking the surrounding streets. And that's why it's so easy to get a sense here of the energy, of the calls for an end to the war and the demand to come to a deal to bring home the remaining 50 hostages, 20 of whom are still believed to be alive.
A lot of the population, I think, knows that this is now existential for Israel in the sense that, you've already lost the world, bro.
There it is.
The world is gone.
There it is.
If you look at young Americans, obviously the entire left is done with Israel. Israel only has like an 8% support rate among Democratic voters. You're cooked. You're cooked among Democrats. So now it's both a thing about genocide, but it's also a rank partisanship thing where we see how Netanyahu coddles Trump's nuts. And like regular Democratic voters are like, oh, this guy's just like a Republican who's destroying everything in sight, right? So you have that. But then on the Republican side, young Republicans also hate Israel. They do. And so it TikTok, bitch, eventually when the younger generation takes over, who's going to have your back?
Be wary of that, though. Be wary of that. Here's the thing that needs to be, again, it's order of operations. Stop the genocide first. Free Palestine first. But we need to start keeping in the back of our minds as these people who all of a sudden, they're like, oh, I don't like Israel. I don't like Israel. I need to know. And they're right-wingers and they're reactionaries and they're fascists. I need to understand why you don't like Israel. Because if you come to me with that anti-Semitic shit, you can't sit with me. I don't want you anywhere the fuck around me. Just like I talked about PDF files yesterday. PDF files, racists, anti-Semites, homophobes, transphobes, all that shit where you want to take away people's human rights and dehumanize them. I don't care. You can't sit next to me in society. You got to go.
Who's going to have your back? There was a top Israeli government official who said something like, if we lose the GOP, we lose everything. And it's like, that's going to happen. Like, it's only a matter of time. Because you're not going to get back.
Because, look, here's the thing that nobody's talking about. Here's the thing that nobody's talking about with conservatives. It's an order of operations. Order of operations works like is this. We don't like brown people. We don't like Latins. We don't like people who look like me. We don't like black people. We don't like Arabs. We don't like Muslims. The Muslims and Arabs are interchangeable to these folk. We don't like that. And so underneath that, we will tolerate Jews to a point because they're white. They look kind of like us. But don't get it twisted. You're on the list. So all they've done is for this period of time, if they've just swapped places, they're like, look, we'll tolerate you brown people and black people for now, while we switch the order of operations to try to get rid of these people. But don't get it twisted, you're still on the list too. That's why when they start coming at you with, we gotta break away from Israel, we gotta stop Israel, all this, make sure that they're not talking about Jewish people. Because they absolutely do. And the sick part about it is Israel knows that. The government of Israel knows that. Organizations like the ADL know that. So what they want to do is they want the smoke. They want the anti-Semitism. They want to make Jews in America feel afraid. So they'll back Israel, send their money to Israel, back them socially, or in their wildest dreams, just move to Israel. Just completely just be like, well, it's not safe here. The only place that's safe for me is in an apartheid, a racist ethno-state that's currently doing a genocide, which obviously is not safe because I don't know any Jews in New York or anywhere else in America that have to go to bomb shelters because their city is doing a genocide and they're being retaliated against every now and then by a bathtub-made rocket. So I don't know anybody in America that's having to do that. So obviously Israel is not the safest place for Jews, but that's what Israel wants. So they have made this unholy alliance with fascists, with Nazis, with literal Nazis, fascist, racist Nazis that the state of Israel, not Jewish people, the state of Israel has made this unholy alliance with. And what we're watching now is it just fall apart in slow motion.
All these young Republicans who see what you're doing in real time. It's not going to happen. And so what I think a lot of the protesters realize is that what Netanyahu is doing here is existential for Israel, period, where the whole fucking project can collapse, and perhaps it will. And so that's why one of the things they're calling for is for him to step down. They want him to step down. They want the hostages returned. They want an end to the war, which it's a genocide. Let's stop calling it a war. But they also want Netanyahu to step down, which, look, we'll take it. Anybody who goes out there and applies pressure, anybody who tries to fucking get this horror show to stop, that's good. And there should be more of this happening. So roads were blocked, businesses shut down, nationwide protests, like massive strike going on. You saw the fires on the highway. I mean, this is next level type shit. The numbers I've seen go as low as 500,000 and as high as 1 million, and I even saw one that went as high as 2.5 million people across Israel. I don't know what the exact number is. I have no idea, but there was a number of different sites, and when you add it up between all of them, there's a lot of people that showed up.
In the weekly cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tried to dismiss the strike today, saying it strengthens Hamas and that it's the destruction of Hamas that's necessary right now.
Bro, he did the thing. There's only two reactions from Zionists. You're an anti-Semite, or you're Hamas, right?
But he's right. I mean, here's the thing, like, broken clocks are right twice a day. Netanyahu's right. Like, it does strengthen Hamas. It does strengthen their resolve to know that, yeah, Israeli society is breaking down. But the thing is, from his perspective, that's terrible. From the rest of the world's perspective, yes, like, the Palestinian resistance are the heroes. So, yeah, they can get a little bit of internal societal conflict as a treat. Just like in Vietnam. You think that's why everybody was so mad at oh God, what was the lady, the actress, the singer or whatever, who like went to Vietnam and like took racy pictures on top of like Vietnamese fighter jets. I can't think of her name right now, but it's not Nancy Sinatra, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But that's why everybody was so mad, because yeah, you are actually aiding the enemy or whatever. Yeah, you're saying, hey, look, like not everybody in the place that you're attacking agrees with our stance on trying to murder all of you. and it does embolden a resistance movement. These are just the facts, and it just happens to be this resistance movement are the good guys. Sorry about it. I'm sorry. This shouldn't be a hot take at this point on August 20th, 2025. This is a battle, like George Bush used to say when we were kids, it's a battle of good and evil. Yeah, absolutely. It's a battle of good and evil. It's a battle of one side trying to not get genocided and trying to protect their home, and the other side who's running a genocidal ethno-state, trying to kill everybody with nukes. They have nukes too, and they've said, with the Samson doctrine, if things get so bad, we'll launch nukes. Does that sound like the good guys to you?
That's all they got. Anti-Semite or Hamas. And here you're calling Israelis in the street. They're helping Hamas. Oh my God, they're so fucking lazy. Oh my God. They're so smug. They're so arrogant. They're so lazy. They're not even trying. It's like when Netanyahu went on the fucking Nelk Boys podcast and he talks about like Burger King and shit. It's like, who do you think you're kidding? Did you think this was going to go well as you carpet bomb babies and starve them to death and you go and shoot the shit about fucking Burger King with two frat boy idiots? You think that was going to go well? Now you're calling Israelis Hamas? Oh my God.
Of course, coming just days after Netanyahu and the Security Cabinet approved Israel's takeover and occupation of Gaza City. Protesters we've spoken with here see that as a death sentence for the hostages. It endangers the hostages. It endangers the country itself.
Okay, true, but also, and this is the issue with liberal Zionists, right, is like, so the thing motivating you is not like the baby starving to death. That doesn't factor in. The thing motivating you is not the fact that like about 300,000 Palestinians have been killed. That's not Kyle speaking. That's a doctor who was in Gaza who just did an interview with the Majority Report. Whatever number you want to give it, it's definitely six figures at least, right? But that doesn't move you. That doesn't, like, you don't want to talk about that. You don't want to center that. It always comes back to like centering Israelis, and I don't know, something about that situation.
All right, so here's the thing that Kyle. So much noise. Here's the thing that Kyle's missing here, and you got to be a little bit cynical to come up with this take, is that, okay, what he's saying about liberal Zionists is correct. They don't see Palestinians as people, but they won't say that because they want to be inside of, polite society. But they're like liberals here in America. They don't see Palestinians as people. They think of themselves as, it's very George Orwell Animal Farm. All animals are equal, except some are more equal, which, in this case, that would be them. They're the more equal animal in this scenario. But here's the thing. But they do care about the hostages. And what's a real mind fuck to these liberal Zionists is they have to come to terms with is that Netanyahu and the Israeli government doesn't care about the hostages. Hamas and the rest of the resistance forces holding the hostages care more about the well-being and the welfare of the hostages because they understand that these are bartering chips to stave off the full force of the Israeli military. They understand their value. And I'm not saying their value as human beings, but their value as a commodity in their project for a free Palestine. They have more concern for their lives than the Israeli government. The Israeli government doesn't give a shit if they live or die. I mean, you can see that they can say whatever they want to say, but judge them by their fruits. The way they run operations in there, the way they shy away, the way they not even shy away. Just absolutely break every single peace deal. If they even accept a peace deal to begin with, Israel's for sure the ones to break it. So that's a real mindfuck that these liberal Zionists have to deal with. Is why are these quote unquote bad guy terrorists, why are they more concerned about your fellow countrymen than the government that supposedly is trying to create a safe space for you as a Jewish person to live in? Riddle me that, Batman.
Wrong when it's like I said, I made this analogy before, but it would be like during Nazi Germany if somebody was out there talking about like anti-German racism, and it's like, I think the issue now is that Jews are being shoved into gas chambers, and maybe we should center that, So something about that is wrong, but at the same time, I'm just happy people are out there trying to stop the government from what they're doing.
because of the split, and we see that rift here, the rift between what the government is calling for and what the protesters here are demanding. Organizers say for them, this is just the beginning. So key question is, where does this go from here? Hundreds of thousands, organizers say, on the streets tonight in a unified call for bringing home the hostages and an end to the war. Again, they promise this is the beginning, and this they say will continue until they see that vision, a vision of the end of the war, realized.
And then, Oren, I also want to ask you about some leaked audio of a former Israeli intelligence chief where he discusses the situation in Gaza.
So this came out just a couple of days ago. It was leaked audio recordings from Israel's Channel 12 News. This is Major General Aharon Haliva, who's the former head of Israeli military intelligence. In part of these lengthy leaked audio recordings, he says here, and I'm quoting from the from the recordings, the fact that there are already 50,000 dead in Gaza is necessary and required for future generations. He says, and I'm quoting again here, for everything that happened on October 7th, for every one person on October 7th, 50 Palestinians must die. It doesn't matter now if they are children.
Oh my God.
People say that, the Israeli government never tells the truth. They're always lying. That's not correct. They tell the truth all the time. You just have to go to their post and hit translate from Hebrew into English, and you see the truth every single time.
This was supposed to be a moderate person. This is a moderate talking. Jesus Christ.
After these audio recordings were leaked, he issued a statement to Channel 12 saying these occurred in a private forum. Obviously, these statements have been...
Who gives a fuck?
That makes it better.
I love that they...
Oh, he wrote it down in his special little diary. That makes a fucking difference.
I think that's a... No, yeah, he said he's in favor of the Holocaust, but he said it when he was, behind closed doors, so, let it go.
Condemned, especially as Israel has faced increasing criticism for the military's conduct of the war in Gaza. This certain to add to that criticism.
Oh, you don't say. Here we have a top Israeli government official who said, Palestinians can blow me, and I hope they die faster. They should die. They should burn in hell for eternity, and we hate them, and we want to see all of them be killed immediately, and we are going to do exactly that. This is what they said. It's that's effectively what they... This is going to add to the criticism. Yeah, you don't say. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Look, here's the thing, though, and we talked about this before, too. It's something like 82% of the Israeli public is fine with the ethnic cleansing. It's almost
82%, dog. 82% of people are just like, no, we are better. We are human beings, and these people are not, and that's why they need to be exterminated. 82% of the population. Your whole society's sick. Your whole society, and we have no leg to stand on because we let you do it. We let you do it. We should go down right with you.
50%, I believe.
If there was any justice in the world.
47, I believe, is the exact number that's okay with genocide in explicit terms. It was only 4% of the public that said the IDF went too far in the genocide, and this was a month or two into it when we got that poll. And so, those are disgusting, disturbing numbers there. But at the same time, from that population, I wouldn't even expect this. This bare minimum what they're doing here, which is effectively trying to get Netanyahu to step down, trying to free the hostages, trying to stop the war. Not a war. Jesus Christ. So it's good for what it is, right? It's good for what it is. Apply as much pressure as possible. But again, I think at the core of this really is the case that they know in the long run Israel is cooked. Their name on the international scene is just dunzo. Nobody wants to have anything to do with you. Everybody's disgusted by you. As soon as the U.S. pulls the ripcord, you're just fuckville. So, if you realize that, then it's you got to start fixing the situation fucking now, right? Trump ain't going to be around forever. And like I said, Democrats are all anti-Israel now. And then even the young Republicans are anti-Israel now. You're on borrowed time now, homie. And so if you don't immediately try to make amends, it's not going to get back. And honestly, at this point, I think it's too late anyway. There is no way you can make amends for what you've done. There's no way. So, but at this point, it's just get Netanyahu the fuck out of there, and they want the hostages back, and they want to stop the war. So, but again, anywhere from 500,000 to up to 1 million, maybe even 2.5 was the largest number I saw, but that's a lot. But what I would say is keep it up to show that you mean it, right? Keep it up. Because this is a unique scenario that we're witnessing. We're witnessing a country do a genocide live streamed in 4K on a daily basis. And the least the population can do is do this massive strike and massive protests on a daily basis until the government is effectively forced to tap out, until the government is forced to take some sort of action to change course. And how long will that take? I don't know. But however long it does take is an acceptable price to pay, given the carnage and the disgusting videos and images that we're seeing, and these poor innocent people who are losing their lives because of what Israel's doing. I should also show you guys this too. This is just one other video from the protests. In this particular place, in Tel Aviv specifically, there was between 300,000 and 500,000 people that showed up. And you did have some police cracking skulls.
It's probably TOS. I don't want to. Twitch is weird. But no, quick stream tonight. So thanks everybody who stopped by and lurked and chatted. I really appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow with some more fun stuff. That's what the schedule says. And we'll see you tomorrow. I might be on later tonight to do some gaming. And other than that, talk to you later. Bye-bye.